we're seeing a lot of indications that the Bernie coalition that once was has splintered for sure, and I don't think we're coming back. I think these are permanent realignments that we're doing. We have people that are people like us that are maybe are more radical, that are have given up more on the Democrats, but things like the Ukraine war is a big fault line. Things like the elected progressives is another huge fault line. Strike breaking, and Marianne Williamson is turning out to be another huge fault line that we're seeing. That this realignment that's happening is really happening before our eyes. People that we used to be cool with, you'll see maybe Vanguard, for example, has been on this network. I'm not sure if they participated in the summit, but at this point, that is completely done. Considering now, I haven't seen the stream that they did today, and I'm not going to watch it because they're literally are beneath
who?
Me, the Vanguard. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to watch it. But I literally, and I know all of you have gotten the same thing. I've literally got over 20 messages saying, you got to check the Vanguard.
They were on for like 3 hours.
They basically did 3 hours about you.
They did 3 hours talking about you guys. They love you. They love
3
you.
hours, man.
They did 3 hours
Whenever Keaton texts me that some shit is on the Vanguard, I ask him to be very specific about the time because I can't watch it. I'm like, specifically, what should I look at? I can't take more than 5 minutes.
By the second.
It was a 3-hour love letter to you guys at RBN because you guys hurt their feelings and they just want to be friends again, buddies. Come on.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead. You want to chime in? Go ahead.
They did a 3-hour live stream over our 10-minute segment.
3 hours. No, they just kept going.
It was a long time. I checked it. It said like 3 hours and 3 minutes or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man, because when I texted,
I saw a little bit of it, and they were trying to pretend that we was actually like their points was so weak. Like I'm like, man, with enemies like this, man, we are good.
Well,
I heard they had to turn their comments off.
They pulled a specific segment where Nick, you said something to the effect of, we called them out for lying about the dirty break, which is why we didn't get invited to the wedding. And immediately after you said that, you started laughing.
Yeah.
Which meant it was obvious you meant that as a joke. But then they responded to it as if you actually meant it seriously, that you were denied an invite to the wedding because you
how they have to do
called them for the dirty break. Yeah. But it's funny because they paused the video on the frame where they can see both you and CJ laughing as if you're obviously kidding. But they acted as if that was a serious point, that you seriously felt snubbed and betrayed. And
that's why I hear from
you
the
didn't get an invite to the wedding because you called them out on the dirty break stuff.
I was obviously joking, and their only critique was, "Oh my God, they just mad that they didn't go to the wedding." They did not address the asset journalism part because they could not. And they also they was like, man, they did a 2-hour live stream, and also Vanguard. This is why their channel is dead. They had built a reputation of lying to their supporters. One of the parts I caught was when they said RBN. They said RBN did a 2-hour live stream over this about this wedding. Nigga, we did not cover the wedding until literally 90 minutes in. We covered the wedding 90 minutes in. Yeah. And they know we did because in order for you to do the reaction video, you had to fast forward 90 minutes. So then they lied to their audience and say, oh, well, RBN did a 2-hour live stream over the wedding. That is not what happened. You guys did a 3-hour live stream over our 10-minute segment because you guys were so in shambles because I ratioed you into oblivion. Vanguard, they love doing videos about people getting ratioed, but in that segment, they did not show me ratioing them because their audience cannot see our position.
And so, I heard they turned off their comments too on the video. They turned the comments
off. They made it subscriber only because I was about to say, why don't you debate me? But it was subscriber only, and I don't fucking subscribe to them. And the Vanguard are cowards. They refused to debate Jackson fucking Hinkle. You were scared of Jackson Hinkle? And I've been openly saying I want to debate Vanguard. They won't do it because they are intellectual cowards who know they have no idea.
They're dumb as dog shit,
Nick,
though.
Nick,
I mean,
guys,
that's so obvious when you're listening to them.
Gentlemen. Well, we all know why the Vanguard won't debate. I mean, come on, they got Aaron Buzzsaw, all right. So there you go. So I mean, once you get a beating like that, you ain't gonna try and go and walk into that ever again. I mean, let's face it. It's pretty sad though that they did that. I didn't know it was 3 hours over a 10-minute video you guys did. Man, you were living in their head rent free.
You know, ratio to death. That's why. And then they unfollowed our account after that because even though we hated each other, I still follow them.
Oh, they did.
I'm not salty. I'm not salty, but they unfollowed the main account because they were super mad. Because I ratioed them to death. I'm gonna tweet that I may pull it up, and they tried their best. It was so obvious to anyone who don't already hate RBN that they were trying to misrepresent our position, extremely desperate. And then there was a certain point, CJ, where the lyrics were like, man, it's hilarious. He's like, man, it's kind of funny how bad CJ and Nick is at this. And I'm like, sir. You realize that the Vanguard only exists because of Force to Vote, right? So Force to Vote happened. Vanguard got Noam Chomsky on. Then Jimmy and everyone in the left tweeted that video out. And then Vanguard got thousands and thousands and thousands of subs overnight. When we started this channel, the Vanguard was at like 20,000 plus subscribers. So, and their channel was only made because Forced to Vote and because the Bernie Industrial Complex. We came after all that shit was over. After Forced to Vote was over, after all these channel growing events was over. And we still surpassed them despite being suppressed. And then they had interviews with Aaron Mate and Lee Camp that completely killed their channel. They maintain to this day that the Marianne Williamson interview for us was a disaster for some reason because we exposed her. But after the Marianne Williamson podcast, many people said they're not going to support her, and our subscribers went up a ton. After Aaron Mate interview, their channel has not went up since then. Yep. Their channel is dead on arrival, but then they were pretending that they somehow have better content than us. It was unbelievably cringe, and unbelievably desperate, and it showed that we struck a chord because Ben Borges came out with a video. I didn't watch it though. There are a lot of people come out with the videos.
They're not addressing the issue though. You notice they're not talking about the specific part, and I'll add this other part in it, but the specific part about why, like the journalists hobnobbing or hanging out with a presidential candidate during the election. Like, let's say this happened like outside of the context of a presidency. Let's say after she loses and she tells everybody to vote for Joe Biden, right? So let's say they had their wedding then. Nobody would be, or at least we would not be talking about this. So let's make this clear for any Vanguard fans that might be in the audience. We're specifically bringing up only the point is that you're hanging out with a presidential candidate, not that you have a wedding, not that the Vanguard went to your wedding, not that people who happen to be in the business of independent media are friends with each other. Nobody has a problem with that. None of that is the issue. Getting married, two media figures getting married, like Nika Brzezinski and Morning Joe, like nobody cares about that. It's the fact that if this was a picture, can you put that back up there? And that was Joe Biden. And then it was, Jake Tapper. It was Wolf Blitzer. It was Rachel Maddow. It was, I'm trying to get somebody at each station. It was Laura Ingraham, all surrounded saying cheese. That would be a problem. Everybody will be looking at that kind of weird. And that's the reaction they got, regardless of what they're trying to spin. And I'll pass it to the Due Dissidence. I know you guys want to chime in. Regardless of what they're trying to spin at this point, they're trying to throw out everything else, like as if we're saying that, when the only critique is that this is access journalism. Go ahead, guys.
Well, no, that's exactly. I mean, we did a brief segment about this on our last show, and we said exactly that. Like, look, we're not interested in trolling Krystal and Kyle's wedding. Vanguard guys got the invite. God bless. It's kind of odd that for two guys who accuse all these other hosts of ball riding a certain other prominent indie media figure, we've not been invited to a single function of his, right? But okay, fine. Congrats, right? Ride those balls all the way to the wedding, knock yourself out, have a great time. Doesn't matter. Brianna Joy Gray, Katie Halper, Burgess, doesn't matter. Who cares? Mazel tov, right? When you invite the presidential candidate who you are promoting, and who beyond that, yes, as you guys, Nick and CJ rightfully pointed out, they essentially recruited her into the race.
Exactly.
Of course, that is a conflict of interest. And of course, that would no doubt become an apparent conflict of interest if Marianne were to ever catch fire and become a serious candidate, which to me gets to the real scandal of this, which is the fact that they invited her to the wedding means that surely they know she's going nowhere. Because if they expected her to catch fire, they would know that this would be a problem for her down the road. Because as you said, CJ, if Joe Biden went to Anderson Cooper's wedding during campaign season, he would know certainly that would be a problem for him down the road as the campaign heated up. So certainly Krystal and Kyle figured, well, yeah, this would look kind of bad for Marianne if she ever caught fire and posed a serious threat to Joe Biden. But since that's never going to happen, what the hell? She's a friend of ours. Let's invite her to the wedding. So what this really exposes is not an actual conflict of interest. It would only be a conflict of interest if she went somewhere. What it exposes is that they know she's not going anywhere, but they are selling her to their audience to gain money, subscribers, patrons, blah, blah, blah. Burgess, that's what this is all about. It's all about that. And so the fact that the Vanguard guys were there, Burgess were there, Bree was there, that's sort of incidental. The main point is that they did this knowing that they are selling their audiences a load of bullshit.
Getting to that point, that's such a great point, because I wasn't planning on showing it, but I had a little debate with Ben Borges on Twitter, and Ben Borges, like a fucking idiot, and I ratioed him for this. He's like, why do you call this access journalist? What benefit could Krystal Ball get from having Marianne Williamson on?
They invited her to run. She's basically running as a favor to them, which is how they see it. I don't know if Marianne sees it that way, but the effect is she's running as a favor to them. That's the way the cookie crumbles, man.
My simple response was, and this question alone was able to destroy his argument. You don't see how a media person having access to a presidential candidate where they can monetize interviews and have access to someone you claim has a chance at winning a White House. You don't see how they would benefit from that. And to your point, King, that's them admitting that they know Marianne Williamson is no threat and that she's never going to be anywhere near power. Right.
You know what else is also interesting too? When Barack Obama won the presidency, it took a while for even, this was back in her heyday, when Oprah Winfrey had to do a show talking about convincing Obama to even run for president. She did this whole big show about it, and even she kept her mouth shut about it. And that's, again, when you're in the media, when you have a platform, and let's face it, Oprah was not some sort of media figure in journalism, but even she had to keep it very hush in regards to what she was going to say about Obama due to the fact that she was very close. And this was a huge election back in 2008. The fact that Marianne Williamson was there, a sitting presidential candidate, sitting at 9%, not the best numbers, but still pretty high numbers.
Down to 2 in a more recent
well, okay. All right. Thanks for the correction. But the fact that you have a presidential candidate this is her second time running in the race. She is surrounded by, again, people who are involved in independent media. This can also be used to decredit and make the rest of us look bad, because the fact that these people who have larger platforms or have far more connections to even people in the establishment, that could discredit a lot of people in independent media going forward, because, oh, hey, look, the people in independent media are doing the same thing you see with corporate media.
That's it. This is the problem with it that they seem to be intentionally missing. Us in this alternative media space and the people who view alternative media, we've been spending 7 some odd years, at least some longer, talking about how the whole corporate media political complex is so incestuous, and look how connected they all are, and they're all friends, and it's just wrestling, and that's not how it's supposed to be. This is the song we've all been singing, including everybody in that picture. That's the problem. Because when you do this, what you are telling people is we're full of shit. Frank Herbert said in Dune, all rebels are closet aristocrats. They want the power that isn't theirs. That's the signal you're sending in a picture like this. You're saying you're a closet aristocrat who aspires to the power you don't have. That all of your rebellious rhetoric is a cover for your own.
Oh Lord, this is amen time right here.
Damn, you even
that
brought
is
the Due reference.
Spot on right there. That is spot on. Let me play this 15-second video. I can't believe I'm gonna rewind that segment, that part myself, and play. Let's just listen to this and we'll talk.
Marianne Williamson is someone who's my dear friend. That's why she invited her to her fucking wedding to officiate her ceremony. She's always been more than clear about that. She's always been more than open about that. And she should be, because she's actually a serious person, unlike myself, who, like I said.
Yes. So we're not saying Marianne Williamson officiated because we don't have any independent sources to verify that, but that's what the Vanguard guys have alluded to, and if that is true,
crazy.
That makes this way worse.
Way
than
worse.
It would be not before I knew that. I didn't know that. If that is true, according to the Vanguard video, there. Your thoughts, Nick? It looked like you were going to chime in.
Yeah, and it shows that they was lying, and their own. I don't know if you guys saw, their own audience called them out on this. As well, in one of the comments I saw when they said, wait, hold, and this is like one of the more higher like comments where once again, this Vanguard's own audience, they get ratioed by their own audience all the time. The dislike bar was a great gift to the Vanguard because all their videos, post Aaron Monte, all the videos were getting downvoted to death. And then that shit happened, bro. Saved their channel. But anyway, look at this. This is plus 11, the most I see here. My only concern is Marianne Williamson officiating the wedding. So I saw this. I'm like, okay, that's another. So this is, they saw the same thing as well. They admitted it. I don't care that Kyle and Krystal will invite friends and colleagues, but it was unquestionably a networking event. There's no doubt about it. So this is them confirming that this was a event that was officiated by Marianne Williamson. But look at this tweet that the Vanguard put out where they got massively ratioed on, which they did not show their audience. They was lying about our position, and they did not show this ratio, which and not like they don't cover that because they love covering ratios on their show. But this is what they said. Imagine smearing leftists because they happen to bump into one another at the wedding. Happen to bump at it. Oh my God! You got a wedding. You got invited, you idiot! And they get ratioed to death because everyone was like, "You guys just bumped into each other at the wedding." That's not how it worked.
Well, look. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, King, go ahead. Chime in.
No, look. I mean, look. It goes back to what you said earlier. If Marianne's not in that photo, there's no issue. Bunch of friends and peers want to take a picture together at a wedding. Who cares?
At all.
Her being in the photo is a story. Of course, it's a story. I just put in the private chat. I don't know if you want to play this video. I haven't watched it yet. I don't know what it is. Kyle just put out a video today talking about how Biden is ready to forfeit New Hampshire. Whose face is featured in the thumbnail? Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson. So the day he gets back from wherever the fuck the wedding was, he's putting out puff pieces on the candidate who officiated his wedding. Of course, that's a conflict of interest. No amount of gaslighting by these motherfuckers is going to convince anyone that it's not a conflict of interest. Of course it is. It's the most blatant conflict of interest imaginable.
Holy cow.
It's not, it's not access journalism if my friends do it, though. If my friends do it, though, it's okay. Right. But go ahead, Ken. I think you want to chime in.
Well, here's the thing. Again, look, anything can happen between now and then. Let's face it. Biden is no spring chicken. If something were to happen to him where he cannot run, then you still have RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson still in the Democratic primary. And the thing is, that even puts everybody who was there, including Marianne Williamson's campaign, in a huge spotlight, because here you have a presidential candidate surrounded by journalists and people involved in the media. And then what? She's also officiating their wedding too. At the same time, there's a huge conflict of interest. That means anyone that's her opponent can bring up the fact that, oh, you're being protected by these people now. This is what you're hiding behind. These people on social media are using their connections with you and your campaign. That discredits a lot of everything that we're all doing. No one in independent media, no one in RBN, no one in Due Dissidence, HardLens Media. Hell, even Jimmy Dore's not going to do that. Lee Kemp, Aaron Mate. This is journalism 101. You don't do that. because anything can happen between now and the coming election. And if something were to happen where Biden's out and Marianne and RFK Jr. are still in,
at that point they'll find a goon to put in.
They'll find a goon.
True. They will. But then again,
it'll be the Hansons and Slapshot.
Yeah, let me finish this tweet real quick. I want to make sure I read it. Let me read it quick, and I'll pass it to you guys. I gotta make sure I make this point while we're still on the Vanguard, because since we know Marianne Williamson officiated the event, so like, why is Vanguard framing it as they just ran into each other? That Marianne, she was just at the wedding. We didn't know that Marianne was gonna be at the wedding. You didn't see on them pamphlets that Marianne Williamson was gonna be officiating the wedding. Is that true? So they are lying, just like they lied throughout the video. They have this history of lying, just like they lied about Marianne Williamson's dirty break. So this is the ratio that they did not show their audience because it will actually represent my position clearly. So they were like, how can you smear leftists because they just ran to a wedding? And it's not a shock to us that the progressive left has no idea what access journalism is. So I spelled it out to them. Krystal Ball did a cringe video that we covered. Krystal Ball scolded third-party activists and told them to grow up for refusing to support Marianne Williamson. This is because she planned on inviting her to the wedding. You guys understand? Krystal Ball wanting to invite Marianne Williamson to her wedding is influencing her coverage. It's making her say stupid shit that everyone knows is not true, that Marianne Williamson stands a chance. She got her ass blown out by RFK.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, whether... I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, my bad, Keith. I'll wrap it up. So my point is, I said, this is typical sellout access journalism. Are you ever going to apologize for lying about Marianne Williamson's dirty break? Because that's all they do. That's all that Vanguard do. They lie. But Keith, go ahead, chime in.
No, I was just going to say, whether you can prove a causation there is really not even the point. Like, whether Krystal was adjusting her coverage of Marianne because she wanted her at the wedding, I mean, that's really unknowable. The bottom line is you have these two who basically, as you guys showed, you basically proved it. They recruited her into the race in that interview they did on their podcast way back. I think it was about a year ago. They put in her head, hey, you should run for president. You should run. They were clearly twisting her arm to run because they needed a candidate to back to drive subs to their channel. And also, so whether like the wedding was the goal or not, I don't think matters as much as she's a good friend of theirs. She's done them a favor. Absolutely. They want to stay on her good side. She's going to be at the wedding. This is a tight, cozy relationship. This is a networking event, as the commenter there said that you just posted a bit. It functions that way. Weddings, family events function that way. We all know that at a certain echelon. These are all about rubbing elbows. And look, if you're there, let's say you did run into Marianne Williamson sort of inadvertently there. Oh, I didn't know Marianne was going to be there. If I'm an independent media person who's so pro-Marianne, and Halper is very pro-Marianne, there was one person who commented in that Vanguard chat that they ran into Katie Halper at a private fundraiser for Marianne.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Then how can you appear in that photo? Like if we were so fortunate as to be invited to the wedding, why would we get in that photo booth? I would be like, no, you know what? If I've got to talk about this election, I don't want to be seen in a photo with the candidate. That looks bad. It's obvious. Listen, let me just put it very, very simply. This is how I put it on our show. If that hypothetical situation that CJ was talking about earlier, what was Joe Biden posing with Jake Tapper or Anderson Cooper at a family event, their kid's confirmation, their wedding, whatever. If Joe Biden appeared during campaign season at a prominent media person's family event, would Krystal, Kyle, Katie Halper, Brianna Joy Gray, would they not all do segments talking about how brazenly corrupt that is? Of course they would. Of course they would. In a second they would. And yet they don't want anybody calling them out for this? It's nonsense. Nonsense. Of course it looks bad to be in that picture with Marianne Williamson. Without her, fine, knock yourself out. Who the hell cares?
And I just want to point out, and look, we're the post-duopoly left. We're not supporting either of them, really, not within a Democratic primary.
Nope.
It says a lot that given these choices, they're all gravitating towards the well-connected, wealthy LA guru instead of the guy who's speaking out about Ukraine and attacking all of these sacred cows that really upset the establishment and talking about how the CIA whacked his uncle, right? They're all, why are they all like, okay, man, you still want to invest in this Democratic primary thing. Why the Topanga Canyon hippie? Like, why would you not go for the more legit person?
Well, I don't think RFK is ordained. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, that's a good point, Russell. I actually made that point, I believe, yesterday, because what these Marianne Williamson supporters would tell you was, "Oh man, we just need a primary in the Democratic Party. We need a left challenger to Joe Biden, and we picked Marianne Williamson because she's the only one. And not because we are friends with her. There's no other candidate. This is back when they made a miscalculation that no one else is going to run against Biden. So then RFK comes, destroys Joe Biden and destroyed Marianne Williamson in the polls almost immediately. So if you actually cared about having a primary where someone represents a position that's supporting healthcare and progressive policies, you support RFK. But they don't, because it's not about that. It was always about propping up Marianne Williamson and her potential book tour she's about to go on after this.
Well, and also connecting them to people. Look, you hook up with Marianne Williamson, you get connected to David Geffen. You hook up with RFK, you get hooked up with a documentarian who did an anti-vax vaccines cause on. Like that's not going to do anything for them. Especially, look, Krystal's already got $44 million, man. She's already connected. But you got these schmucks like the Vanguard. They're not going to get anything out of hooking up with RFK, but they can get connected with people who are nowhere in their universe by hooking up with Marianne Williamson.
Absolutely.
You know what else is pretty pathetic too? It's in regards to we talked about this on the last power panel, but this manufactured need to try and recreate the Bernie Sanders movement of 2016 with somebody else. Yeah. Those shoes are too big for Marianne Williamson to fit in, and it's quite clear that her campaign is going to end up the same way as what happened to her in 2020. I would expect more professionalism from a lot of these people who've been in the business longer, who've been around and have seen the fact that DNC commits election fraud. I would expect more from people to do the right thing, but I guess in their need to get the views, to get the money from the election of 2024, they're willing to compromise their own values. And if that's the case, it really puts the future of independent media at risk, because if you, like, again, as was stated before, if this had been anybody else, let's say Biden showing up at somebody at MSNBC or CNN, one of their events, a wedding, anything like that, all of them would have been saying the exact same thing that we're saying here right now. And they need to be called out on it, because you have a presidential candidate at your wedding and, dare I say it, officiating there. I mean, that's what the boys at the Vanguard are saying. They're saying it, not us. They're the ones that are saying they were there. Cenk and Anna weren't there, so I don't know. I guess they got their invite lost in the mail or something.
Looks like the Vanguard deleted the Aaron Montes video. Can someone confirm that? That would be hilarious.
Oh, hold on. I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you. I'll do some investigative journalism right now. There you go.
Then they turned the comments off. Dude, the comments, I remember I read that shit was so brutal, man. They killed their channel in one interview, unlike in a way I've never seen before. Like, after the Aaron Monte interview, they lost like 1,000 subscribers immediately.
Not did they kill their channel, they made our channel. That was like our first breakout video, was making fun of them for that interview. That's when we got our first batch of real followers.
That was it. It was a hobby until then.
It was a hobby until
they're
then.
They're job creators too, I guess.
Yeah, job creators.
Nothing that bad. Dude, they had all that momentum. Their channel was built or forced to vote, and then nothing happened after that. And then you just kill your channel.
It's so sad, because like they've completely kissed ass on that whole panoply. They were on the leftist mafia to cover the Tim Pool Lance thing. They were, and now they're all over Twitter with this wedding, and it didn't budge their subscribers. Like, nobody wants to watch their shit, and I think that's because if you want those kinds of politics, why are you going to watch Dumb and Dumber do it? Like, why aren't there are people, whatever you think of some of these other folks in that picture, they're all a lot more talented than those guys. So why would you go there if that's what you're looking for?
And they lie about stuff that's completely easily provable. Easily provable. We can get to the next one.
Well, they were actually in that segment. This is how fundamentally stupid they are. They were going on about people kind of aligning with Jimmy Dore for access and all of this, and never criticizing them. What the fuck are you guys doing
exactly
with Kyle, with Marianne, with Krystal? Like, what do you do? I haven't seen you say a bad word about any of them since your grift drifted in that direction. Yet they literally went on the air and started talking about how Kyle's a man of principle who didn't compromise his channel for subs. What? They literally, I swear to God, they said that. I swear to God, they said, and they unfavorably compared them to Jimmy Dore. They went, yeah, you know, Jimmy Dore was there cranking and cranking.
Oh,
no, I swear to God, that's what they said. And they were like, yeah, and Kyle, people were like, you know, Jimmy Dore, he's building all these subs, cranking it along. You got to do that too. But Kyle said, no, I'm doing something else with my channel. And hats off to you, man. Seriously, at the same exact time, within the same, like 2 minutes before, they were talking about people kissing Jimmy Dore's ass.
Oh, you guys send me that link. You
swear to God.
Video. You guys send me that video.
They always do this because they have no other arguments. They smear. Like, I always explain this before they smear people at Jimmy Dore. But I want you guys to explain to me how this makes any sense, and I want to show you guys the insanely bad logic of the Vanguard and their people. Their argument, because I hear them say that, they said Jimmy Dore had captivated a right-wing audience. This is the argument, right? Jimmy Dore audience, he's not bigger than Cal or all these people they like because he's legit. It's because he got a right-wing audience. And we are and the reason why we don't criticize Jimmy is because we want to get that right-wing audience. So their claim is that Jimmy Dore's audience is right-wing, but somehow they are following a group of openly black communists. Like, openly. So are right-wingers okay with communists? CJ, how many panels have we done on reparations? So we did reparation panels. We did all the things that's completely abhorrent to the right. And we openly do. We openly talk about black liberation, openly talk about communism. I openly praise Cuba and Nicolas Maduro all the time. But according to the Vanguard, Jimmy Dore's right-wing audience is 100% okay with my ass praising Fidel Castro. This is the argument that they believe is actually influential, that people actually believe. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they also say that they are afraid to criticize Jimmy Dore. And I'm asking you guys this question. How many times we criticize John Mubaraka? How many times we criticize Mark Kimberly? How many times we criticize Aaron Mate? How many times we criticize any of these guests we have on? Because our guest is post-duopoly. If you're not post-duopoly and you start propping up the duopoly, that's when we go after you. They pretend that Jimmy is the only guy we don't go after. Meanwhile, Black Power Media, all these countless people that we associate with. But anyway, we all know they bad faith.